The Stolen Salem Crown. The ancient city of Kano buzzed with the fervor of Sallah, its dusty streets transformed into a tapestry of color and sound. Hawkers shouted over the clatter of donkey carts, selling sizzling suya skewers and vibrant aso-oak fabrics. Children darted through the crowds, their laughter mingling with the call of muezzins from minarets that pierced the sky. The air was thick with the scent of incense and roasted groundnuts, and everywhere, the rhythm of Durbar drums pulsed like a heartbeat. In the heart of the Saban market, Musa Ibrahim, a lanky tailor of 19, hunched over his sewing machine, his fingers guiding a needle through a bolt of indigo cloth. Musa was no stranger to hard work. Orphaned at 12, he'd learned his trade under the stern tutelage of Maulam Yusuf, a master tailor whose shop was a hub of gossip and craftsmanship. Musa's nimble hands and quiet demeanor earned him respect, but his dreams, of one day sewing for the Emir's court, were mocked as fanciful. "Stick to kaftans, boy," Maulam Yusuf would grumble. "The palace is for men, not dreamers." Yet Musa's heart burned with ambition, and Sallah, with its promise of grandeur, felt like a stage where anything was possible. On the eve of the festival, as the sun dipped below the city's mud-brick walls, Musa worked late, stitching a last-minute order for a wealthy merchant. The shop was empty, save for the hum of his machine and the flicker of an oil lamp. He was about to lock up when voices drifted through the thin walls of the back alley, low, urgent, and laced with menace. "The crown's in the palace vault," one voice hissed, rough as gravel. "We strike during the Durbar, when the guards are distracted." "The Emir's crown," another voice, smoother, replied. "It's said to hold Kano's prosperity. Steal it, and the city falls to chaos." "Exactly," the first voice said. "The buyer in Marrakesh will pay a fortune. We just need to get past the traitor in the guard." Musa froze, his needle poised mid-stitch. The Emir's crown was no mere ornament, it was a sacred relic, forged centuries ago, its gold and emeralds said to be blessed by the spirits of Kano's ancestors. Without it, the Sallah rituals would fail, crops would wither, and the city's fortunes would crumble. Musa's heart raced. He crept to the window, peering into the alley, but the figures were shadows, cloaked in darkness. As their footsteps faded, he made a choice. He couldn't ignore what he'd heard, not when Kano's fate hung in the balance. Musa barely slept that night, his mind churning with the thieves' words. At dawn, he slipped out of the cramped room he shared with other apprentices and headed to the palace, a sprawling fortress of red clay and towering turrets. The Sallah festivities were in full swing, with horsemen in glittering robes parading through the streets, their mounts adorned with tassels and bells. Musa pushed through the crowds, his patched kaftan a stark contrast to the finery around him. At the palace gates, he approached a guard, a stern man with a curved sword at his hip. "I need to see the Emir's steward," Musa said, his voice trembling. "It's about the crown." The guard laughed, eyeing Musa's worn sandals. "A tailor? Go mend your threads, boy. The palace has no time for you." "But I overheard a plot," Musa insisted. "Thieves plan to steal the crown during the Durbar." The guard's laughter faded, replaced by a scowl. "Speak such nonsense again, and you'll taste my whip." "Begone." Defeated, Musa retreated, but his resolve hardened. If the guards wouldn't listen, he'd have to act alone. He returned to the shop, gathering what little he had, a small dagger, a skein of tough thread, and a leather satchel. Maulam Yusuf caught him as he left, his eyes narrowing. "Where are you off to, Musa?" The shop's swamped with orders. I have an errand," Musa stammered, avoiding his master's gaze. Maulam Yusuf grunted. "Don't be late for the Durbar. Sallah waits for no one." Musa nodded, guilt gnawing at him. He couldn't tell Maulam Yusuf the truth, not yet. As he stepped into the bustling streets, the weight of his mission settled on his shoulders. A tailor against thieves? It was madness. But Kano was his home, and he'd fight for it, needle or not. Musa's first task was to find the thieves. The alley behind the shop offered no clues, only trampled dust and a scrap of cloth, coarse and foreign, unlike Kano's fine weaves. He tucked it into his satchel, a faint lead. The thieves had mentioned the Durbar, the grand parade where the Emir and his court would ride through the city, a spectacle that drew every eye. It was the perfect moment for a heist, with guards spread thin and the palace half empty. Musa headed to the Guidon Rumfa, the Emir's palace, weaving through Kano's labyrinthine streets. The city was a maze of narrow alleys and ancient walls, its markets alive with traders haggling over kola nuts and leather goods. As he neared the palace, a sandstorm swept in from the Sahel, a howling wall of grit that turned day to dusk. Musa wrapped his turban tighter, squinting through the haze. The storm was a bad omen, whispering of the chaos the thieves sought to unleash. At the palace gates, Musa lingered, watching the guards. One caught his eye, a lanky man with a nervous twitch, his eyes darting to the crowd as if expecting someone. Could he be the traitor? Musa edged closer, pretending to admire a nearby stall of brass jewelry. The guard slipped into an alley, and Musa followed, his heart pounding. The alley was a dead end, but the guard met another man, cloaked in a dark burnous. Their voices were low, but Musa caught fragments. "Vaults behind the throne room," the guard muttered. "Keys with the steward, but I can get it." "Good," the cloaked man said. "We move at the Durbar's peak. Don't fail us, Idris." Musa's blood ran cold. Idris, the traitor's name. He backed away, but his sandals scuffed the ground. Idris spun, his sword half drawn. "Who's there?" Musa bolted, the sandstorm swallowing his footsteps. He ducked into a spice market, the air heavy with cumin and turmeric, and lost Idris in the crowd. His mind raced. The vault, the Durbar, a foreign buyer, the pieces were coming together, but time was short. The Durbar was tomorrow, and he had no proof, no allies, and no plan. That night, Musa hid in the shop's back room, poring over his meager clues. The scrap of cloth nagged at him, its weave was tight, almost mechanical, unlike the hand-loomed fabrics of Kano. He remembered a trader in the Kermi market, an old Hausa woman named Hajia Zainab, who dealt in rare textiles. If anyone could identify the cloth, it was her. At dawn, Musa braved the lingering sandstorm to reach the Kermi market, its stalls half-shuttered against the wind. Hajia Zainab sat cross-legged on a mat, her fingers sorting bolts of damask. Musa showed her the cloth, explaining nothing of its origin. Her eyes narrowed. "This is Moroccan, from the souks of Fez. Not sold here, too costly. Whoever carried this is no common thief." Musa's heart sank. A foreign buyer, a Moroccan cloth, the plot reached beyond Kano. "Thank you, Hajia," he said, slipping her a coin. As he left, the sandstorm roared back to life, a blinding fury that forced him into an abandoned courtyard. There, he stumbled over a crate, its lid pried open. Inside were tools, lockpicks, a grappling hook, and a map of the palace, marked with the throne room's location. The thieves had been here. Musa memorized the map, his tailor's eye for detail serving him well. But as he turned to leave, a shadow loomed. Idris, the traitor guard, stood at the courtyard's entrance, his sword gleaming. "Nosy tailor," Idris snarled. "You heard too much." Musa dodged as Idris lunged, the sword grazing his arm. Blood seeped through his sleeve, but adrenaline surged. He grabbed a loose brick and hurled it, catching Idris's shoulder. The guard staggered, and Musa ran, the sandstorm his only cover. He wove through alleys, his lungs burning, until he collapsed in a mosque's shadow, safe but shaken. Idris knew his face now. The stakes were higher than ever. Sallah day dawned clear, the sandstorm gone, leaving Kano radiant under a cerulean sky. The Durbar was a spectacle, horsemen in emerald and scarlet robes, their lances flashing, rode before cheering crowds. The Emir, resplendent in gold-threaded Baban Riga, led the procession, his stallion prancing to the beat of talking drums. Musa watched from a rooftop, his satchel heavy with the dagger and thread. The crown was still in the vault, but the thieves were moving, and he had to act. And map, Musa slipped into the palace through a servant's gate, his patched kaftan blending with the workers bustling about. The throne room was empty, its marble floors gleaming, but the vault's door, a slab of iron behind a tapestry, was locked. Musa's lockpicks, scavenged from the crate, were clumsy in his hands, but his tailor's precision guided him. The lock clicked, and the door creaked open, revealing a pedestal where the crown should have been. It was gone. Panic gripped Musa, but footsteps echoed behind him. He hid behind a pillar as two men entered, the cloaked thief from the alley and a wiry accomplice, the crown glinting in their hands. Idris played his part, the cloaked man said. We'll slip out during the procession. Musa's blood boiled. Idris had betrayed them all. He followed the thieves, trailing them through the palace's maze to a courtyard where they climbed a rope to the city walls. Musa pursued, his fear drowned by fury. The walls were narrow, windswept, and treacherous, but he moved with a tailor's grace, his thread looped into a makeshift lasso. The chase was relentless. The thieves sprinted along the walls, the crown tucked in a satchel. Musa followed, dodging arrows from a third accomplice on a tower. The city sprawled below, the Durbar's colors a blur. A misstep could send him plummeting, but Musa's focus was iron. He hurled his lasso, snagging the wiry thief's ankle. The man fell, cursing, and Musa pounced, wrestling the satchel free. The cloaked leader turned, his dagger flashing. You're no match for us, Tailor. Musa ducked, the dagger slicing his turban. He kicked the leader's knee, sending him sprawling, and ran, the crown heavy in his hands. The walls curved toward the Dala hill, where the Durbar's climax would unfold. Musa's lungs screamed, but he pushed on, the thieves close behind. At the hill's edge, Idris appeared, blocking his path. End of the line, Idris sneered, sword raised. Musa's mind raced. He remembered the thread in his satchel, strong, tailor's thread, meant for heavy fabrics. As Idris lunged, Musa dodged, looping the thread around Idris's wrists and yanking tight. The guard stumbled, and Musa kicked him off the wall, where he landed in a hay cart below, groaning but alive. The cloaked thief caught up, but Musa was ready. He swung the satchel, catching the thief's jaw, and bolted toward the Durbar. The crowd parted as he leapt into the procession, the crown raised high. The crown is safe, he shouted. Guards swarmed, seizing the thieves, and the Emir's eyes met Musa's, wide with astonishment. The Sallah festival continued, its rituals unbroken. The Emir, in a private audience, held the crown, its emeralds gleaming. You, a tailor, saved Kano's honor, he said. Name your reward. Musa bowed. A place in your court, to sow for your house. And justice for Idris and the thieves. The Emir nodded. Granted. You are no longer just a tailor, Musa Ibrahim. You are a son of Kano. That night, as fireworks lit the sky, Musa stood on the palace balcony, his heart full. The crowd below chanted his name, a tailor-turned-hero. Maulam Yusuf, in the crowd, grinned, pride replacing his usual scowl. Musa's journey had changed him, and Kano would never forget the boy who chased thieves across its walls. Years later, Musa's tale was sung by griots, his name etched in Kano's lore as Musa of the Crown. His workshop in the palace crafted robes that dazzled the Sahel, and the Sallah Durbar always paused to honor his courage.